Ladies and gentlemen, I am very humbled and honored to be here today and to speak on behalf of the alumni and to reflect on my life experiences before and after receiving the Moshal Scholarship Program. I was born in a year of victory, unity, and transformation. In 1995, South Africa was just a year old as a democratic country, and in the same year, South Africa united and hosted the Rugby World Cup, and against all odds, we claimed our victory. We witnessed transformation in our courts as the constitutional courts in the very same year made a landmark judgment which abolished capital punishment. In the case of S versus Makwanya, and I'm sure lawyers in this room can relate. It was a year of nation building. It was a year of hope and peace. And 23 years later, we are all here today, united by one man, Dr. Moshal. With a vision to make a difference in our country through education, he has united us, transformed us, and we stand victorious in our respective career paths through him. And in my testimony today, I'm going to speak about transformation, unity, and victory. My journey started in the dusty rural areas of Mpangeni in 1994. While I was in my mother's womb, my father was shot in the head on his way from work and was left at the scene to die. But luckily, he was quickly discovered by people walking by, and he was taken to the nearest hospital for medical attention. He was one of the many victims of the transitional political wars giving birth to our democracy. And shortly after I was born, that was after 1995, my father was still fighting for his life, and my mother, in order to ensure his safety and well-being, had to relocate with him to Durban, and I was left behind in the care of my grandparents. Back then, while I was young, going to school was optional in my village. The elders were more concerned about their farming operations, the cows, the chickens, the livestock. My siblings did not like the idea of going to school, but for me, it was an escape from all the harsh realities of growing in the rural areas in the absence of your parents. It was the only place I felt in control of my life, but it was not a romantic path to choose. As I had to wake up every morning and walk about an hour barefoot going to school. I had no school uniform, I had no shoes. And it took me about 1 hour, 15 minutes every day to get there because the school was located at the height of the mountain, and at the foot was a river that I had to cross every day in order to make it to school. It was more difficult in winter, and even worse when it was raining, because sometimes I would be forced to take off my clothes in order for me to be able to cross and make it to school. But it was worth it in the end, because in 2007, I was awarded the overall top performing student certificate. I was the first one to receive this award at home, and this achievement was the foundation of my desire to further my studies. And so I decided to relocate to Durban to find better schools and to reunite with my parents. This for me was a journey of unity and transformation. Allow me to take you back to 2008 when I started my secondary education. My parents were very supportive. They made the most of the little that we had, and for the first time I was at peace. I had a full school uniform. I was walking on tar road to school, and it only took me less than 30 minutes to get there. At this point, my mother was working as a domestic worker, and my father was a cane weaver at the Natal Society for the Blind. My younger brother was still in primary school, and a year later, something tragic happened. My mother passed away. She was the bedrock of the family, and after we lost her, life was like a mudslide for me. I had to quickly assume all her responsibilities at home. And that meant taking care of my brother, my father, and myself. Life did not only rob me of something that meant everything to me, but it also robbed me of my childhood, because I was only 14 years at that time. This unfortunate event taught me that life is indeed just a memory passing through time, and that we must cherish every moment that comes by, because anything can happen at any time. Through unity with my father, we remained strong. My academic life was cemented by the friendship with classmates who shared the same vision I had. And that is why from grade 10 up until grade 12, we were the top 3 performing students, and we remained the top 3 performing student. I remember when I was in grade 10, I had learned about Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, and it taught me that in any given environment and at any given time, it is not the strongest of species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but it's only those that are best adaptable to change. And with all the changes I had gone through, I had adapted. And in 2012, I was the first to hold a matric certificate in my family and possibly the village at home. I was the first to be enrolled at university to read for an LLB degree, and this is all because of my strong work ethic and the good company I kept in high school. In my neighborhood in Durban, the chains of poverty and suffering demanded that when you finish matric, you become a man. And that means you go look for a job so you can help at home. And my father gave me the opportunity to further my studies. At any given time, he could have said that I must go and look for a job. But I didn't. I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer, and so I went to university to register, but when I was told I had to pay 3,500, I knew I had just hit a brick wall. I had no money. I knew my father had no savings for me. His only source of income was his disability grant, and it was a little too late for me to apply for bursaries. I came home that day devastated, and I told my father about this. And we went to university the next morning to appeal to the NSFAS loans, as I had met all the criteria, because I matriculated with an average of 76% with a few distinctions. But all our efforts did not bear any fruits. However, my father continued to support me. He managed to secure a loan for my registration, and the rest I had to see for myself. He had no idea how he was going to repay the loan. I had no idea how I was going to survive university. As you may know, university is very expensive. You literally pay for everything, and I had nothing. No food, no clothes, no money, and sometimes I would not attend classes. I would sleep in computer rooms just so I can finish my tutorials and assignment. In the very same year, I kept applying for bursaries without success. I appealed to the School of Law, but I was advised that if I can get my grades just above 65%, I will surely get NSFAS for the following year. I did more than that, despite the odds that were stacked against me. I obtained 69% for both semesters, and I thought to myself, finally the war was over. Until 2 days from Christmas, and that was 23 December in 2013, NSFAS had made their funding decision, and I was not on the list. I received an email informing me that I did not get the funding due to shortages of funds. And for me, that was the worst Christmas present ever. But because the universe didn't give me the opportunity to properly mourn this decision, I immediately sat down with my father, and for us, Christmas was over. We had to try and make a plan. And so we went from door to door the next morning. We sent emails to everyone in our reach, local newspapers, media platforms, but everyone was in a festive mode, and our efforts didn't bear any fruits. Even on my birthday on the 4th of January in 2014, nothing came through. A week before the registration deadline, and that was in February 2014, I was still owing the university 30,000 for tuition and 3,000 for registration. I was already given up. I was exhausted physically, mentally, and emotionally. I told my friend about this, and he told me about the Moshal scholarship. He then gave me Joy's email, and I applied. And surprisingly, for the first time, I got a response a few minutes later after my application, which I had sent to Jody. And she asked for supporting documents, and she invited me to the induction weekend thereafter. I thought she wanted to interview me. And so I was preparing for an interview for a full 3 days. My main problem was public speaking. I could read and write in English, but I didn't know how to speak English because from primary school, high school, I was only taught to pass English. And I was taught this in my home language, isiZulu. That was very hard. The day of the induction had arrived. I walked into the venue. I was very nervous. And as I walked in, I saw her, and she welcomed me with a very warm smile. And the first thing she told me was that I've been awarded the Moshal scholarship. Thank you. I was very excited, and I went home that day and I told my father the good news. And I saw tears of happiness, and I felt it in his facial expression and the way he spoke to me. And it felt like Christmas had finally arrived at home. The scholarship paid for everything that was due and owing to the university, but it gave me more than that. It afforded me the opportunity to dream, to focus on my goals, to become a lawyer of unfailing integrity. It gave me hope and made seemingly impossible dreams possible. There is a quote which reads, "Never respect men for merely their wealth, but rather for their philanthropy, as we do not value the sun for its magnitude and height, but we value the sun for its use and benefit to mankind." Dr. Martin, to all of us as Moshal scholars and alumni, you have been the light at the end of the dark tunnels. You have warmed up our hopes in the midst of giving up. You have been the answer to our cold winter night prayers. We appreciate you. We thank you. What often seems to us as bitter trials and tribulations are often blessings in disguise. I didn't know this until I became homeless in 2015. And that was because the lady whom my father had bought the house from was a fraudster. She took advantage of his vulnerability as he was blind, and she sold the house to him and someone else simultaneously. But unfortunately for us, this other person had managed to secure transfer of the title deed into his name, while our transferring attorneys were sleeping. And that's how we became homeless. As a law student, I felt very defeated and hopeless. And I felt as if justice had not been properly served. But as a Moshal scholar, I always had Jody on speed dial, 24/7, and she was very supportive throughout the transition period. She ensured that my academics were not affected by this transition. But ladies and gentlemen, something blissful happened. It was at this moment that I found my true calling in this law profession, to become a conveyancer. And today, I'm only a few steps away from achieving that dream. I am currently a conveyancing candidate attorney in one of the best law firms in KZN, Garlic and Boswell Attorneys. And I'm currently attending to the title deed transfer of the property I just bought for my father. And in a few years, I will be building him a bigger home than we lost. For me, life is like a relay. When you're holding the baton, you're not running for yourself, but for the person ahead of you and for hope to the people behind you. It is for this reason that when the Moshal Scholarship handed over the baton to us as Moshal scholars to uphold the principles of philanthropy, kindness, humility, tolerance, and leadership, we as Moshal scholars have over the years dedicated our lives and time paying it forward. We have responded to the call of humanity in 2015 during the high xenophobia attacks in South Africa. We have become mentors to those who seek guidance, tutors to those who require our skills and expertise, motivational speakers to our brothers and sisters in our communities. And we are role models, and we are leading. We are spreading love, unity, and transformation. Thomas Edison once said, most opportunities are often missed because they come dressed in overalls and they look like work. And I would like to encourage each one of us in this room to never miss the opportunity to help make a difference in our homes, communities, and the world at large. And if you ever think you are too little to make a difference, try going to bed with a mosquito in the room. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your ears. I hope you enjoy the rest of this occasion.